Okay, it is 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Let's call the Johnston City Council meeting number 26-02 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Reddy.
Here.
Burkhart.
Here.
I want to welcome everyone that is in the audience this evening. If you are here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask for you to wait till that item comes up to address the council at that time. If you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a new member of the staff this evening. She'll be introduced here in a minute, but Brooke, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor and Council, under the non-consent agenda, item B, consider resolution 2615 approving the preliminary plat for 141 Business Park Plat 1. We will remove that from the agenda. It'll be considered likely at your next council meeting.
Council, any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Reddy.
Yeah.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We have no scheduled public communications this evening. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Cindy, do we have anybody on? Did we have one?
I have one that I would like to do really quick if I could right now.
Cindy, do we have anybody online? Okay. Mike?
Yes, thank you. Mayor and Council, I would like to do a quick introduction to Brooke Mallory. Brooke started today with the City of Johnston. She is our new Human Resource Director. Brooke currently holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies from Iowa State University with an emphasis in leadership and communication skills. Brooke brings more than 13 years of human resource experience, both across private and public sector, most recently as a Human Resource Director for the City of Des Moines. Brooke is currently working towards her master's degree from Drake University in Public Administration and holds a Society for Human Resource Management Senior Certified Professional, or SHARM, SCP certification. So we'd just like to welcome Brooke here at the City of Johnston.
Welcome, Brooke. We're really excited to have you on board. There were no other public communications, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is public hearings. The first public hearing, item 4A, to conduct a public hearing and consider first reading of ordinance number 1157, rezoning 4.36 acres from R1 75 Medium Lot Residential District and M1 Light Industrial District to M1 Light Industrial District. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:04. Jacob.
Good evening, Mayor. 10705 South 147th Street LLC submitted an application to rezone property located at 6602 Northwest Beaver from R1 75 Medium Lot Residential to M1 Light Industrial District to the M1 Light Industrial District for the construction of 2 industrial buildings. There's no prior background or approvals for the site. The site, as currently stated, is zoned R175 Medium Lot Residential and M1. The intent of that R175 district, as outlined in our comp plan, is to establish, preserve, and enhance neighborhoods with predominantly detached single-unit dwellings, as well as 2-unit dwellings on medium and large lots. The intent of the M1 district is to provide areas of the city suitable for light industrial uses, such as assembly, fabrication, and processing of goods and materials, where industrial activities are conducted primarily within buildings and where the byproducts of industrial uses such as noise, odor, smoke, and storage are generally confined within buildings and ordinarily do not have nuisance impacts on the surrounding properties. The property meets both the bulk regulations for the R175 medium lot residential and the M1 district. At the time, as the requested rezoning does not include a site plan review, actions that require a site plan would include additional review by city departments such as fire, building, public works, and other departments that could cause those additional requirements. As I stated, the site does meet the bulk regulations of the M1 district. A 60-foot buffer would be required along the west of the property. I'll pull this up for you. Along the west side of the property adjacent to the existing residential neighborhood. So right along here for you. Per the Johnson Code of Ordinances, a 60-foot buffer shall be made up of 6 evergreen or overstory trees, 6 understory trees, and 18 shrubs per 100 linear feet. An opaque fence or wall 6 feet in height can replace up to 50% of the required shrubs. At a length of 363 feet, the requirement would be 40 evergreen/overstory trees, 40 understory trees, and 120 shrubs. The Thrive 2040 Comprehensive Plan identifies the future land use for the subject property as industrial, with properties to the north and to the west as residential, and properties to the east as industrial and commercial. The staff, we did mail out notice to everyone within 250 feet plus right away. We have gotten a variety of comments and feedback from support and comments against it. A lot of those comments and concerns related to the property value, screenings and buffers, noise, smells, landscaping, those extents. The Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this rezoning request at their December 8th, 2025 meeting, at which time staff provided a recommendation of approval. That Planning and Zoning Commission voted to not recommend approval. As such, a supermajority is required to move forward. We have the members of the applicant here. We have, as well as our building official, Adam Oster, to help answer any additional questions you may have. I can answer any questions you have as well.
Does council have any questions for Jacob?
Yeah, Jacob, quick question for you. On that map that you're showing me, which part is the residential, which part is the industrial there?
So this northern half is currently that property, that the section of the property that's zoned residential, with the southern half being
The pink part is.
so the hash part is the lot, with this northern half that's in yellow and the red line is the residential portion, with the southern half being the industrial.
Industrial, so the same plot, 2 different zoning there.
Correct.
And now you're asking us to make all of them into a light industrial zoning.
That is correct.
Okay.
Other questions?
Jacob, I'm just looking through your staff report. I think you indicated that the comp plan indicated that, or the land use plan sort of projected that this should all be treated as industrial property. Is that?
That is correct.
And that I've seen, I'm not sure if it was material that you circulated or they've been circulated by the developers, but the 24 comp plan, which we developed in the late 2019s or so. But there's 2 previous comp plans, probably done in like early 2000s and maybe late 1990s. Did those also show this entire parcel as industrial?
I do not know the answer to that. I didn't look at the previous comp plans for that, but I do know that this property has been split zone like this since at least 1980. When doing research for this, to the property of the east, I found a zoning map from around that time that showed the property split zone. So it's not.
You're a planning professional. I mean, so this idea that you have one parcel that has 2 classifications of zoning, does that seem consistent with zoning principles to you? I mean, how many parcels in Johnson do we have part of the parcel one zoning classification and another part of the parcel a different zoning classification?
I believe this would be the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. I wouldn't say that there's maybe more, but this is the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, it seems like not ideal, might be the kind of the nicest.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, right? But clearly that leads then kind of the challenges. It's also my understanding that on the southern part of the property, there's a stormwater easement, is that right?
Yes, there's a water main easement, if I believe.
Is it okay.
Yeah, stormwater water main easement.
And so, do you know how wide of an easement it is?
It would take up a good portion of that southern portion of the lot.
And so if there's an easement like that, you can't build a permanent structure on top of that, is that right?
Correct.
You could do parking lots?
Parking lots, to the extent I believe I would let Matt. They don't like to have parking lots over it, but I believe we could do parking lots.
Yeah, generally, if we build over the top of a water main, and if it is a parking lot like that, the owner would be responsible for the maintenance or to put back that concrete if they were to construct over the top of that water main.
So they can, if they're gonna, no permanent structure, no building. But if they wanted to build a parking lot, they're kind of doing it at risk.
Correct.
But obviously then that impacts kind of even though the southern part is zoned industrial, its ability to build industrial on that site is somewhat limited by the presence of that easement.
Yeah, I would agree with you and say that it does limit that buildable area for that southern portion, for the industrial portion of
Okay.
it.
Great, thank you.
Other questions, council?
Mayor, I do have a couple. Jacob, the first question I have has to do, there was an attachment that indicates, nope, not zoning map. Was there a land use map?
Yep, I have it up
Future
for you.
land use map, thank you. And this is reflective of our current comp plan?
That is correct.
Okay, and so the subject parcel in the comp plan is, the entirety of it is considered to be industrial, at least from what we had, or
The land use?
the council had done, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And just, there really, as best you know of this area, the only deviation from that plan is the residential that went in, I'm going to call catty corner to it,
Correct.
as a portion of that was designated as commercial.
That'd be correct.
Okay. The other question I have has to do, and I just want to make sure I'm not getting things out of order. There was an attachment that came, it is the Good Neighbor notification. The second page of Good Neighbor identifies the current zoning. The split screen of that says proposed zoning, but actually just has a rendering of some sort of plat. We're not at all discussing that plat tonight, correct?
No, we're only discussing the rezoning.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is because that plat in draft form does provide some sort of entrances to that property. What are the regulations with regard to entrances and exits to a property, and does it vary between an M1 and an R1?
We go off of SUDAS, so it would be off of that. With that, I don't know off the top of my head if it varies off of per use.
Okay.
I haven't used it, and I don't use it enough to have it off the top of my head. I would say that when we get to that point, if a site plan were to come in, we'd look at that just like we do every other. We have our safety distances from intersections, from existing driveways. We work with Public Works with that. So there is a process for that.
This is a naive question, but do we have to ensure that there can be an access to every parcel from a public roadway if it doesn't comply to SUDAS?
I would let David answer that. I believe the answer is yes, but I would defer to David.
Okay.
You'd also allow access. It's the type of access that would be allowed and the spacing of that access. So that is driven more by the classification of the roadway than the use. And so as Jacob stated during a site plan, we would review classification of the road, those requirements, and access will be allowed. It's the type of access. It may be right in, right out, for example, on Beaver Drive. But that would be reviewed when we had more information.
All right, thank you both.
And I did go back to the earlier question, at least a 1998 version of the comprehensive plan, the entirety of the parcel was shown as industrial.
Thanks.
Other questions, council? Okay, thank you, Jacob. This is a public hearing on this item. I would ask first if the developers want to make any comments before we receive public comment. Can you see that?
Can't see. Can you see that?
Yes, you can see it. Okay. My name is Beth Reich. I'm here from 10705 South 147th Street, LLC. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. We are currently under a purchase agreement with Julia Roberts. She's here for the 4.36 acres. We are asking for it to go from the medium residential light industrial to all light industrial. We went to planning last month. The Community Development Department recommended our approval, but there was some concerns from the residents, and planning and zoning didn't pass it. We took those concerns and sent out informational packets to all the neighbors surrounding the property, and then we actually met on site with close to 15 neighbors, along with Rhonda was there. So we broke those down, and I'd like to present some of our solutions to their concerns. Property oversight and accountability. We currently have 61 tenants across the Midwest with 46 properties. I have Fortune 500 tenants that are usually locked in for 5 to 10 year leases. So these are big name companies that are coming in and staying with us. We do biannual inspections. It's 4 pages long. So we're going out to these properties looking for anything outside leaning against the building, any trash, and then they have 7 days to correct all those issues. I also have a bricks and mortar building in Des Moines, so I have someone on site, along with, we've given out our phone number and email to all residents. We, of course, would encourage them to contact you guys if they ever had concerns, but us too. Part of that is that I can hold tenants accountable for trash violations, noise violations through their lease. They also would have to follow the City of Johnston's noise ordinances. The traffic was a concern. Planning brought it up. There was a lady that spoke about it and said that most likely after the study was done, traffic would only be turning right out of there. We, of course, are going to put our interests where you guys tell us they need to go. Buffering, screening, and fencing was a concern brought forward. Our plan is to put a 6-foot cedar fence on the backside where the residents are. We also own American Fence, so we're capable of keeping this fence in top condition for you guys. Trees was a concern. We're currently working with an arborist who will assess the site and let us know what trees are healthy and what can stay, along with working with Jacob in the city to add trees and shrubs to meet you guys' code. Safety and cleanup was a concern. 3 weeks ago, there was actually a break-in on the property. The police were called out and they found someone, she was actually in the lady's bed that used to live there. There is a lot of trash out there right now. You can see these bottom pictures are what is out there. There is scrap metal, trash everywhere there's some feral cats out there. So all those are plates that they're feeding the cats on. Some of the neighbors voiced concerns about that's actually moving and blowing onto their property. Again, we do those biannual inspections, so trash is never an issue at my tenants. With the 61 tenants, I've never had an ordinance violation. Partnership with the city was a concern. We have been working with Jacob and the city from the beginning on this to come up with our site plan, make sure we're following all of your guys' ordinances, along with your future land use map.
Council have any questions?
I have a question. The plan that I can see on this board that you brought in is different than the plan that is in the package of comments that were supplied by the city. But what's not different, well, can you bring it closer, actually?
Is there any way you could put it up on the screens too? I don't know if Jacob, you have access to that or.
So that area in the front, is that parking lot? Can you show me where the edges of the parking lot is?
The parking lot's right here.
Okay,
This is that storm sewer easement that
Right,
Jacob was talking about.
right. And then when we were on site that day, you talked about preserving the trees along the west property line. Are you, you haven't shown any of the existing plant material as being preserved, but we had some discussions about that. Do you have more to tell me about what you think in terms of trees being preserved on site?
So this is the storm sewer easement that Jacob was talking about. Can you see that?
Yeah, you're gonna have to.
Let's see.
Great.
Okay, David, you're gonna have to move this one so we can see. Thank you.
So the storm sewer easement that Jacob was talking about was right here. Buildings can't go across that. There is the parking lot over here. There are trees that run all along here. And then there is the current existing houses right here with trees around it. Again, my plan is not to remove any trees unless I absolutely have to. From what Jacob has sent, actually have to add trees and shrubs to it to meet your guys' guidelines. The cedar fence will run all along here.
There's quite a bit, we talked, and there's quite a bit of an elevation change from the northwest corner of the property to the southeast corner. And that's going to, and you have quite a large building, which I'm assuming you're not going to want to have. You're going to have one consistent elevation within the building as opposed to steps or change in elevation. So I told you this already. My concern is saving as many trees as possible, that this is one of the entries we consider important to the city of Johnston, and not having an aerial background that shows the existing trees is a problem for me, and knowing the grading is a problem. And I also understand your difficulty. You would have to invest in thousands of dollars in construction plans to know exactly what's going to happen. And right now, you don't even know if it's going to pass the zoning. So I understand the issues of giving us more information in which we can have a better idea of what might happen if this becomes all light industrial. But without more assurance on the trees staying there, I just don't want to see this entrance. I don't want to say I won't be supportive of it. I'm still want to hear what the community has to say, but I'm disappointed that we don't have more information. I understand why we don't. I just wish we had more to deal with.
We do work with our plan, so we address elevation changes. Like so we are going to work with our rest. How long you guys speak about how many more trees we chose to have.
Right.
Would your arborist be able to look at with your building plan that you've got there and look at the existing, because this isn't an issue of new trees you're going to plant. I think the issue is maintaining the mature trees that are strong and healthy on the site, because they've been growing there for 40 or 50 years. And, you know, that's, I think, what we want to kind of try to maintain. To what extent can your arborist, working with your site plan, go on the site and look at, okay, these are the trees that we can maintain within that 60-foot buffer. but also probably just as importantly, which trees along Beaver or kind of where the house currently is could be maintained so that either before we approve on first reading or between first and second or later in the process, but before we would approve it fully, we would have a better understanding of what this site's gonna look like. What's your arborist's timetable? What would your arborist need from a timetable be able to provide that, and can they provide that?
They would be able to. They typically will flag trees with different tape on what they think is healthy and what can stay and what they think needs to go. I don't know that it would take them more than a couple weeks to do that, though. So you guys have a visual, is that what you're wanting? I'm like, these trees with the pink tape would stay?
That would help. You would also have to have a survey person go out there and flag out where the edge of the parking lot is and where the building is. And though that would place the things on the site, it doesn't address the grading issue, which will also impact on all the plant material. So without a survey, I mean.
Had a survey done of the property.
But not the grading plan.
And I don't have a civil done,
Yeah.
no. I would think that the arborist could take the survey and do some sort of overlay for you guys and flag trees so you could see those visually.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, because I think, this is a complex site, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, because as you go, I don't know if you can maybe pull back that map up, but so Beaver, as it runs to the south there, is industrial, but as it runs to the west is more residential. So you've got kind of a coming together. And this property is a perfect display. It's half residential, half industrial. We couldn't make up our minds, so we left it that way. So now we have to decide if we can make up our mind or not. I think that what I would be interested in hearing, and maybe I'm not sure if you can help answer this or if the property owner can better answer this, but if we said keep it the way it is, or is the property viable financially with a residential element continued in that? I think that's a question, and I don't know if you can answer or if
We did a
the
little.
owner can answer that, but.
We did some research on that. It should have been in the packets that you guys got. If our proposal does not go through, there's potential that you can have commercial and say apartments out there. So we did some mock-ups of those and actually brought them to our meeting with the residents. There's way, way more traffic for something like this. You've got people in and out of here from early morning till evening. My tenants are usually 7 to 8. These are blue-collar contractors that are doing other stuff, go do jobs and come back. This is people nonstop. And the majority of the residents that came out last week to meet with us did not want this over there. And this is a possibility for them.
But that would also require a rezoning.
Residential right now, correct?
Yeah, but R1, you can't
It's
do
R1.
apartments in R1, so
Yeah, I'd like to hear how it could go to apartments when I thought it was zoned R1.
I don't think it can go to apartments if it's zoned R1, so, but I think knowing the value would be helpful, so.
Blake Bogenreef, I represent the seller. I'm a resident of Waukee, but I'm here representing the seller, the current owner. So the question of R1, what happens if it's left R1 on the north side and M1 on the south side? So we dug into this in the beginning. I think we listed this in October with Julia and her family. It was appraised prior to that. There was zero value attributed to the residence. So it was built in 1938. The home is not in great condition. So it would likely be scraped regardless of what happens with zoning. But it's not attributed any value from the appraiser. I looked at it. I'm in commercial real estate. I also had some residential brokers. I asked them their opinion on does it have potential as a residence, even if it's redeveloped as R1, a new structure put on. And I was told by everyone that I talked to, no, it does not. The highest and best use is commercial. So that's what we've been pursuing. So if it stays R1, I don't know eventually what happens to it, but there's been 0 offers or interest from R1 users.
And then you're left with the southern spot part of it that's industrial, which how much of the 4.3 acres is industrial?
Just eyeballing it, it looks like just over half of the
But let's
parcel.
say
So
2.2 acres.
Yep.
But right in the middle, it has this easement. So that limits your ability to kind of construct something on the industrial side of it. So that really, to maximize the best and the highest and best use, I guess, to use the sort of terminology, is for it to be classified all residential or all industrial.
Right.
So.
If you wanted to develop it, just the M1 portion of it, you'd be working with a pretty small footprint. It would be, I don't know how large, but it might end up being one of those kiosk buildings. They call them kiosks if it's 1,000 square feet with a drive-through. I mean, we can do parking around it, but you're not going to end up with a super large building if everything stays the same.
So just to be clear, to change it from R1 to a townhome development like shown, like you had in your package, you would have to come to the council, you'd have to come to planning and zoning and then to council to make a change.
To develop the entire
So
site.
either
Yep.
way, there would have to come back to us for a zoning change. It doesn't just automatically apartment buildings, duplexes, townhomes is not allowed on the R1 portion.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Duplexes are allowed, but not townhomes or apartments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Think duplexes are typically.
Of a
allowed.
certain size,
Yeah,
correct?
right, but you
And
can
only
typically,
so many people, and only
probably one duplex.
one duplex, right?
I mean,
It's not like it's gonna be multiple duplexes.
right.
The limit is based on how many people are living, or
And-
how many residential units are allowed.
I'm certainly overstepping my knowledge base too.
But we really appreciate your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
What am I be taking right now?
I mean, I understand everything that's going on here, but the plan that's shown, and I'm looking at an aerial showing all the existing plant material and a major portion of the landscaping that is existing would be gone with that larger building. Even if you came out there and an arborist put flags around the trees without having a grading plan that says, we have to remove 6 feet of soil here, and unless you're willing to build retaining walls all along the site, so it just plops back in there, you're gonna have soil disturbances out from that building, tens of feet.
May I ask you a question? You're done? Okay. Can you please, Cindy, can you put the map again, please? So in this map that is C, can you pull it down a little? Right. The north side, there's a road, and the east side, there's a exit, right? Exit and entrance, the way you put it. The way I understand this conversation going, that you cannot build a residential because it's not profitable. That's why you're building is warehouses, I presume. And that's warehouses storage, and this goes in and out, traffic goes in and out. There's that north side and the east side. So the traffic, what kind of a traffic that flows in and out? Is that a huge 16-wheeler truck or is it a smaller one? How does that work there? Okay.
Again, this is a rough draft, so Reggie is talking.
Right, yeah.
So we had to start with an S, the traffic study has to be done. They eventually would tell us if we even go here.
Okay, so my question goes this way. At that point, when you have a north entrance, that's a 2-lane road. And at that little down east, now on the north side, the north entrance, yes. When it exit out, that road that goes down east, the one slopes down, that's 2 lane at that point in time, and then it becomes 3 lanes at that particular junction. If you have traffic moving at that huge trucks, whatever trucks you move, it cannot probably exit out of that to west. It will always exit to the east, and it will occupy the road. The truck will occupy the whole road to exit out of that particular north exit. Have you thought of that?
So you're coming out of here?
Yes.
Yeah, the lady that spoke at planning in December said she thought most likely after the study of this will be the right turn.
Always a right turn one. If you have a bigger truck turning the right turn.
She didn't think I'd be able to have people come out of here and go left.
And just so we're all clear, was it Rose Schroeder that made
That is
that
correct,
comment? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just having this start up here, but I think you need to get this plan a little bit more, then we can understand better. That my concern is that at that point, the traffic, there's a 2 lane traffic at that particular north side, becomes 3 lane right after that. So, and that's a downslope. Traffic moves quite a bit faster at this point, at that point. So the plan does not look great to me at this point. So maybe you can give me a better plan, then we can talk more about this, what you do, how we do. And then there's no traffic signals at that point. There's one right there, but do you want me in that point there, traffic signal there?
Added
You
to
said a
the-
traffic study, not
Traffic study?
not a traffic signal, but a traffic study.
Or more labels, are you asking for more labels as to show that this would be a right only?
Yeah. So that's one thought I have right now, but I think when you get a better plan on this, maybe we can talk more on how that will happen there. So think about it.
So a traffic study would be done as part of the site plan. So if a traffic study would needed to be done, it would happen during that site plan
Right.
process.
So what my question is leading right now, so if you're, right now we're asking that part to be changed to from residential, industrial, and then the plan comes by. Now, if you move that, approve that to residential to industrial, the plan goes forward and we do not have a traffic study done at this point, still in time. So how do you plan to actually, how do you expect us to say, change it to a residential to industrial without knowing how the traffic will be affected there?
I don't know the exact answer.
That's
For
what
you.
I'm trying to say. We do not know those answers yet.
My only thought would be that it would be no different than if it was a commercial. If it wasn't industrial, but it was commercial, would it still have that same, we would still have the same requirements. We'd still have, if once they went through the site plan, if it still triggered a traffic study, we would still do the traffic study. So we would still likely probably come out with the same, right in, right out only would probably be the same basis of it as well. So I don't think there's a drastic difference if that's what you're asking, but I do see your point.
So have you ever been to that road in the
Yes.
mornings and evenings? Have you seen that traffic that
Very.
goes from Ankeny into that 141? That's a huge traffic happens
Yes.
all the time. And the one that turns south, that particular point in time, there's a lot more. And last weekend, I saw a major accident happen because somebody did something and a major accident. There were a lot of people. So that is a bad corridor for accidents. Now, if you put up an industrial, like a warehouse like this, without understanding the traffic concerns there, that's not something we are not really there, okay? That's my thought process here. So we need to know more answers before we actually go forward on this. Thanks.
I'm not sure, this is more of me posing a question, but when the comp plans are put together and the future land use maps are approved, I don't know if that goes into play, if traffic is a question when that gets approved. If it's already been looked at as this could be industrial or commercial, given the,
I probably think it's true, but I think still need to make that that question needs to be answered before we can make that move. If you're putting a warehouse, traffic moves, there's much more traffic, and that's also a lot of traffic moves between Ankeny and to Grimes, 141, and there's a shortcut. They don't want to go to the highway, they take that road. There's a lot of traffic up there. And if you don't take that into concern while we're building this, I don't see how we can actually make this happen.
Councilman Reddy, I just got a question for you. So what I'm hearing you kind of say, I just want to make sure I understand it, because I think it's a legitimate point, is that, so you have kind of three broad types of property. You have residential, you have industrial, and then you have commercial, like a strip center type thing. Sure. What I'm hearing you say, I think, is you think this site might be better as a commercial use instead of industrial, because then that would reduce how much trucks would come in and out, and that might make traffic flow better. Is that?
I'm not either on commercial, industrial, or residential. I'm just looking at the point. If you have a commercial entity or industrial entity, the traffic that happens at that point more, right? It increases more. And we have this huge trucks coming by warehouse, basically warehouse storage, and not taking away from that. That's the whole thing. Trucks, industrial, for example, that's an example I took. If they take that turn on north side, there's not much traffic to move. They cannot make a turn at all. There's not enough space to make a turn, if you look at that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. But, so I guess the comp plan, though, when they've looked at this, when they've had the choice of saying residential, commercial, or industrial, and they've looked at this 3 times, they've each time settled it on industrial. So that's kind of, and I don't know, Dave, you've been around for maybe 2 of those studies. Is there a thought or rationale for why they landed on industrial for this site?
So going historically, look back through the comp plans, going back to the first one in the early 70s, the Beaver Drive corridor has long been the industrial corridor in the community. I say that in general, from interstate to kind of this intersection, has long been the industrial corridor. And that goes back to the historical uses that were there in the redevelopment that we've seen over time. The comp plan is the high vision, the blanket. It's not zoning. It doesn't allow anybody to go out and build anything. It just says this is our vision. Zoning is what really then is the next layer of, okay, in our vision, in our comp plan, we said this is going to be industrial. Then what's the right zoning district to apply to it to match the zoning? So if they came in today and said we want to rezone the whole thing to R3 or R4 or R1, that would be inconsistent with the comp plan. And so then we either have to amend the comp plan or we couldn't approve that zoning change. The questions you are all asking are all good questions. They're the next step. They're the site plan of, okay, we've established a vision for what this property might be. We've established a zoning district for this property. Now someone wants to develop the property and they have to meet all the requirements. Traffic, access, grading, landscaping, buffering, all that stuff are the next step. That's tens and tens of thousands of dollars to do all that work. And so as an applicant, they're at the stage where they're considering buying this property. And that's a huge investment to make if the zoning isn't going to change. And so that's why you don't have some of the answers you're asking, of the questions you're asking today, and why they don't have those questions. So that's kind of the process. It's a little bit of the historical. So,
and maybe just as a follow-up, because obviously, as you look at from the potential to use this as an industrial use, I think Councilman Reddy has made some legitimate points questioning the access there on the north side of Beaver. And so that's sort of, that looks like based on this design, that's where the truck access primarily would be. Is there any way, would it work better if the truck access was instead on the part of Beaver that runs north-south instead of kind of to the northwest? Because I know that's kind of problematic too. I don't know if you have if you can do a full full entrance there on that property.
Southeast corner?
Yeah, sort of the southeast corner. And is that a better, would that, if you had the truck traffic coming in on that side,
There's going to be challenges. Access is going to be challenging,
Both ways.
both sides.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the challenge, so.
Other questions for the developer?
Mayor, I do, and I may be posing them to the wrong folks, so I apologize in advance. But, you know, as we look through our code of ordinances, we have a wonderful table that talks about what is permitted under certain zoning and what can be done through site plan review. And when we start getting into that M1 light industrial, it's a pretty lengthy list that would be tolerated or able to be constructed via site plan review in M1. Is there any opening by the seller to restrict that usage from the standpoint to certain items that may be more amenable to those neighbors from that standpoint?
I would say we are open to it, not to speak on behalf of Julia, but I would say she is open to it, but the issue has been.
When you're talking about investing a lot of money, we'll have to make the best decision for the estate. She's got to make the best decision for her company. And in the meantime, we're amenable to it, but we don't want to cut off any future options if we don't know what is going to happen with the zoning.
We could limit the risk so that it only occurred if they end up buying and developing, then why not? It's not, you know, I don't think the developer has any issues with those, with condensing that list of acceptable uses under M1. I think that could look a lot different.
Like a development agreement.
We just can't take the risk of putting that in place
Limit the options I have.
before.
Whether I split the property in two, you know, or.
So I don't mean to interrupt, but what I'm hearing you say is that you could agree to some sort of limitation on the uses. But if this development somehow falls apart, then that limitation would be lifted and then the council could revisit that.
Before or after, that's been my question.
The hard part is that then the challenge is for us, I mean, you've highlighted the risk you have, the developers highlighted the risk you have, and we have risks too. So we all have to kind of see, yeah, right. And it's not the easiest, this is not the easiest one to figure that balance out. So.
At this point, the contract is dependent on rezoning. So.
Right.
You keep going back and this and that, or, I mean, I guess the direction would be, you know, where of course any seller would want to be, is the direction.
Sure.
What direction.
Thank you.
I've asked Christine, our city attorney, just to comment on this because I know that some of these questions have been posed to her.
Yeah, so it is not unusual to do a conditional rezoning where you limit the allowable uses on a site. The city does that from time to time. It is difficult to tie that to a particular property owner. Normally that is a zoning ordinance, it runs with the land. And so once you approve that, those are the restrictions on that piece of property regardless of who owns it. So that's the problem with doing a conditional rezoning if the sale doesn't go through, and then I think that's the seller's concern with that approach. Normally, if you're tying it to a particular person, then it is more like a development agreement or something. It's not a zoning ordinance necessarily. So that would be the alternative, I suppose. But then that doesn't give the comfort to the neighbors who are concerned about uses in the future as well, if that property owner, if that development agreement then goes away. So it's a bit tricky here.
Councilman Burkhart, did you have further questions?
No, This is very helpful, and thanks for asking Christine to weigh in too.
Any other questions for the developers? We may ask you to come up again. Thank you. If there are others in the audience that would like to address the council on this item, I would ask you to approach the podium, give us your name and your address. And please keep your comment. We have several people, it appears, that want to speak tonight. So if you could keep your comments as concise as possible, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christine Forrett, and I live at 6715 Northwest 48th Court in Johnston. I'm here to express my concerns with this proposed rezoning of the property at 6602 Northwest Beaver Drive. I have 4 main points I would like the council to consider as you look to make this decision. The first, as many of us have been talking about, the traffic safety at an already very congested intersection. This property does sit at a high traffic intersection with frequent turning movements, which already present congestion and many safety concerns. Introducing commercial traffic, so deliveries, employee parking, customer turnover, would significantly increase the vehicle volume and that turning conflict that we were just addressing. The other point I'd like to make is the impact on the bike trail and the pedestrian use. The location is a critical juncture for the bike trail connecting 2 suburbs, serving families, commuters, and recreational users. The commercial driveway, delivery vehicles, and increased curb cuts would directly conflict with cyclist and pedestrian safety. This trail is a community asset, and increased commercial activity could discourage the use and undermine the current and future public investment. My husband and I had the opportunity to participate in the open house on the park trail, or the trail system, and this area is definitely considered a part of investment moving forward. So this could be a big impact on that trail traffic. There's also the loss of the residential buffer and the overall neighborhood character. This neighborhood serves as a gateway and a visual entrance to the Johnston community, as Rhonda had mentioned. Residential zoning and green spaces provide a soft transition from the busy roads into the neighborhood. Commercial development would introduce signage, lighting, pavement, and building scale that is inconsistent with the current character. Once rezoned, the city loses long-term control over the look and feel of this entrance to our community. While the house itself may be outdated, the property contains many mature trees, gardens, and green spaces that contribute to the neighborhood aesthetic, stormwater management, and environmental health. Redevelopment as a commercial use would likely remove much of this natural barrier in favor of a parking lot and hardscape. We did get a chance to hear from the developer and the homeowner at a meeting. We do appreciate their time last week. During that conversation with the homeowner, she mentioned that she even was married on that front lawn. Those are the kind of things that feel neighborhoody and why we all enjoyed moving to the area. The last point I'd like to make is just the existing commercial buildings with vacancies that already are on Beaver Avenue. Currently, there are 6 active for lease and for sale signs along Beaver Avenue for light commercial already, with multiple spaces within each building. I have concerns as yet another series of commercial spaces could sit vacant. I appreciate the council's time for letting me share these concerns. I know we all want to see Johnston continue to grow and succeed as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Hi there, my name is Elaine Waldschmidt, and I live at 6651 Northwest 48th Street. Our entire east property line butts up against the residential area. We have enjoyed living there. We moved there because of the beauty of the area, the beautiful wooded trees. I feel like having some things such as industrial in that area, I mean, our family room, our kitchen, everything faces out there. I've seen light industrial areas and trucks are coming through with their lights. Trucks are backing up, beep, beep, beep. You know, I am so opposed just from the standpoint of it will diminish my quality of life in Johnston and on my residents. In talking, you know, and I know a lot of things are going to be addressed by a lot of different people, so I won't go on and on, but, you know, noise, smells, of course, the traffic, you know, all of those things. But, you know, we were talking to one of our sons about this. And of course, my kids are all devastated about it because they grew up in that yard. And they have a lot of good memories and a big industrial facility right on, you know, 60 feet is really going to, you know, they're upset about it. But one of the things my son said was, if you look at that property and, you know, yes, everybody knows that Northwest Beaver Avenue is an industrial corridor. But once you turn the corner, that's the beginning of the residential area of that part of Johnston. So that north section, really, it's like invading into the residential area. So, I mean, I could say a lot of things about, you know, in depth, but basically, I just am really concerned because I want to keep the aesthetic, the peaceful neighborhood that we live in. I know what zoning it industrial is going to do for our home and the, you know, how we feel about living there. So I just wanted to share that and hope that it stays zoned residential. I know it's not in the big plan, but there's a lot of reasons to keep it that way. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is, you know, the realtor spoke up about the fact that there was no interest. Well, it's had a huge sign that says zoned M1, you know, rezoning. You know, no one is really looking at it as residential. It's being sold under the conditions of it being M1. So, you know, if it's not approved, you know, there may be some buyers that want it. That's a beautiful property for residential, in my opinion. So that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elaine.
Hi, Justin Rice, 4754 Northwest 65th Avenue. I get to live with the daily reality of M1 on two sides of me. I have the Public Works building as well as Venner Spooner's property, and I can tell you it's really not delightful. Highland Dairy runs 200 feet from there, and they have trucks running 24/7. It's M1 zoned. They can do it. There's nothing that says they have to keep noise below a certain level, that they can't run their trucks all night long. It would be the same for any other M1 zone property, even with a buffer. They have loading going on all night long because that's part of their business, is to make sure that that happens. We've had difficulty getting the city to do anything about the noise that they generate, which is understandable. It's hard to enforce something that you're not around to see and you don't live with presently. But it's the same with Venner Spooner and their trash. And we have constant complaints against them with the city, and the poor lady who's in charge of code enforcement is probably tired of visiting that whole area. And, you know, I appreciate nondescript LLC street address coming in and saying, hey, we're this and that, but that's all hypothetical until they're there. And then once they're there, how do you even find that they're the owner of the building without using the assessor site, which is something I know how to do, but do other residents know how to do that? No. And my last point is traffic. I want to see a right-hand turn lane coming down Beaver, because at 7:30 in the morning, that traffic's backed up all the way to our streets. You know, you come 3:30, 4 o'clock, traffic's backed up. I can't get across the street to get to Trail Ridge. I usually end up turning the other direction to come back the other way. During those time periods, it would be really nice to see a right-hand turn lane to adjust some of that traffic out, as well as possibly readjusting the lights And I know if they have to add a traffic lane there, that will affect what they can build because the setbacks all change. I guess the other thing too is that corner is not really 2 sides commercial, 2 sides residential. It's really 3 sides residential. There's residential behind it, residential across the street, residential across the street, and there's even 1 house in an M1 zone there too. And it'd be nice to try and figure out a way to contain that industrial to that section of Beaver and not let it get into the neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Anderson. I live at 4754 Northwest 65th. A lot of my other neighbors have articulated very well, very specific items that I also agree with and feel just as strongly about. When this first came up, what first came to mind was the reason why I moved to Johnston. I'm from Urbandale originally, but this neighborhood reminded me of where I grew up, what it's my old neighborhood was not anymore. And I got that wonderful feeling, hey, I'm in a mature neighborhood. There's lots of access. The city of Johnston invested a lot in the bike system right across the street from us, which was wonderful. It was one of 2 points I wanted to move there for was access to a bike trail and not to be on a busy street. Those were my 2 must-haves when I moved there. This does not help with me being able to enjoy those must-haves that the reason why I moved there. When the plan was up here earlier, it just showed just that plot plan. It does not show Northwest 48th Street, where that is a one and only in and out of our neighborhood, which is kind of at the crest of a hill, and the bike trail is across the street. There is no sidewalk going to the right or to the north side of that property or that street line to be able to get down to the intersection safely, to use a crosswalk there. We have to cross over Beaver to get to the bike trail. If there's additional traffic, if there is an additional access way to a industrial or light industrial property, that's only going to increase the danger of those pedestrians and bicyclists I see, and even kids. It was wonderful to see kids playing out in the street this summer. It felt like a neighborhood. And I would hate for people to feel like they can't use the bike trail. Kids don't feel safe playing outside. And that quiet, not being on a busy street is not there anymore. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Andy Edgington. I live at 4755 Northwest 65th Avenue. And as Justin said, we live right next to Vinner Spooner, an M1 property that is full of trash. And so I'm normally a really nice guy. I help all my neighbors. But y'all just seen the picture of that place and all the trash. So I'm making a trash complaint right now. It needs cleaned up. And I don't believe that could ever be an apartment complex there because the city of Johnston has no sewer there. Now, this is.
Sir, if you could hand those to our city clerk, she'll hand them out
Okay,
to us.
this
Thank you.
is the actual letter part of what she was holding up for the pictures for you guys to see that Levine Enterprises sent all the bordering neighbors. And I don't believe you all have that. So, you can hand that out, and then I would appreciate it. We've been trying to get the city to clean up Vinner Spooner property since July 8th. I turned it in. It's been going bad for over 3 years. Hasn't happened yet. Been complaining about Highland noise forever in the city. Paula Spooner says she turned it into the city attorney, which I imagine is this young lady, and said they couldn't do anything about it. I talked with Jacob today, and he even tells me that there's a noise ordinance that the city of Johnston has, which is this. You can hand this around. applies to the entire city. It specifically states, no unloading and loading. If it impedes on the piece, then it implies to M1 also, light industrial, but yet they keep telling me, can't do anything about it. So that's what these folks get to deal with. My property is gonna be off the southwest corner of this metal building. So the City of Johnston sign on the corner where this bad intersection is says, welcome to the City of Johnston. Do you want 2 big commercial buildings sitting behind your sign? Or would you rather have residential properties? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My notice is up. Putting property up.
Is there anyone else that would like to make comments?
Hi, my name is Jeff Inman. I live at 6716 Northwest 48th Court, which is across the street and just to the north and west of the property. I've been living in the area for most of my life, for the last 42 years, brief excursion to Las Vegas. And I've seen the area grow, and I know that Johnston is continuing to grow. But this is one of the front doors to the city. And I agree with the last speaker that you have your sign there. We have a historical sign there about it being a stagecoach stop. And this is a bad look. This would not be a great front door to our city. Also, we moved to this area 12 years ago. I'm an avid cyclist. One of the reasons we moved there was easy access to the bike trail. There are hundreds of people that go up Beaver and cross there and go over to the trail across the river. Increased traffic of any sort in this space, which is already heavy traffic, is going to be increase the danger for those cyclists, particularly during the summer months. And then finally, there have been times where traffic has been so bad, I've been backed up across the interstate going north to go to our house. And increasing traffic in any way at that intersection is going to just make it even more difficult to have the area be livable. So for me, it does not seem like a great use for that property, for what the city is going for its aesthetic, and then for the neighbors in the area. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Feinberg, and I live at 6679 Riverbend Drive. I think I'm the only one south or north of the property. And I'm asking, are we even asking the right question here? Should we make it, residential or light industrial? Or should we just leave it something like people have said? It's the entrance to the city. We only have a few of them. We have the one on Merle Hay Road, and we have on this one here. When we give it away for anything, we lose that. Plus, I have lived in this area for, 25, 30 years now. I've seen nothing but more accidents at that intersection over the past 10 to 15 years. When I first moved there, the people down in Eagle Ridge had no problem sending their kids across the street with their bicycles. Now, I know of like 4 or 5 families on my street that won't let them cross that traffic area because it's gotten so bad. If you sit down there at the bottom of the hill and just watch the traffic fly down there right now, I can't believe adding more to that and then taking away anything we have with right turn lanes or bicycle paths is going to do anything for the city. That's my saying.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Testino. I live at 4768 Northwest 65th, catty corner from Andy over there. I live there with my brother who has special needs, and he likes to walk around the neighborhood with his headphones on. And with this new stuff coming in, I don't think it's going to be safe there. You're going to have people turning down that wrong lane. He may get hit by somebody because he's not paying attention to these giant box trucks. But that's just one thing I wanted to add. The last thing is, the zoning commission did say no to this. I just want to remind everybody, the zoning commission said no. Thank you. Have a great day.
Are there any other comments? That was going to be my next question. Does the developer want to respond to any of the comments that have been made?
Brief here. So I guess I'll start off by saying we held a neighborhood meeting, and I'm glad we had the turnout we did. There was a lot of good feedback from it. And I do want you to know that we hear you. There's a lot of valid concerns. And one of the first things we did when we heard those, one, I'll just address the home value. I looked at comps, because if I was living there, I'd probably have the same concern if something else was going there. If we were going for heavy industrial, it would, no doubt, there's heavier usage, there's heavier odors, it's louder, there's manufacturing allowed, there's just a whole different set of rules for heavy industrial. Light industrial is a lot different. So what I did is I looked at comps of homes that were bought where neighboring properties were developed as light industrial after that home was bought. Then I saw what it traded for after, and I compared the appreciation rate of those homes to the rest of the market. It was for all intents and purposes, it was the same. It was about 0.04% different or something insignificant. So I'll just say that I looked into it. I understand the concern there. The other concern, so I got to see the backyard of a couple people's homes, and I did see, Highland Dairy, Venner Spooner, there are some issues with those sites. I just ask that we recognize those as enforcement issues. I think that's what they are. And I would be complaining too. So I want you to know we understand that. I'd probably be saying the same things. But I think those are enforcement issues, not necessarily rezoning items. Vacancy was mentioned. There's 4 lease signs up and down Beaver. Beaver is a strong industrial corridor. There have been a couple recent developments for sale units, condo units that went up, which contribute a little bit to the vacancy, but it's really under 10%, which historically is about what it's been. So on average, it's consistent with the rest of the marketplace. And R1, I think I'll just make the point that I think there might be a misunderstanding of traffic and what could happen here. We've looked at traffic. It's definitely a busy intersection. That's a concern. I just think that we are working with a developer that wants to do a light industrial project. And so we geofenced all the M1 properties to the south of Beaver. And we geofenced, we tracked the annual visits to those properties in and out for the year of 2025. And we found that on average, it was about 2,200 visits per year per acre in 25. And we compared that against, okay, if the south half was developed as commercial, because we do have interest from commercial, we don't have interest from residential, which is another point. There's a kitty corner that's selling duplexes. They started out at 550, which was, in my opinion, way too high. So it might have been a pricing issue at first. Then they dropped it to 525. Now they're at 500. We've tried that route. We've not been able to generate interest in residential. But as far as commercial goes, there has been interest. And if you look at commercial traffic in and out of a C-store, is one of the proxies we used, compared to that 2,200 visits per acre per year, they were over 200,000 was the nearest. We used Casey's as a proxy on Beaver. Residential multifamily was a little over double what the M1 visits were. So I just wanted to clear that up. I know it's a concern. Traffic is always going to be an issue here. We're not going to help that by any means, but my point is the alternatives. I think we have to think about big picture is relevant too. What else could this be used for? So that's what I've got.
Can I ask him a question? No, that's not. Actually, if you wanna come up and introduce yourself, I think it would be very, very appropriate for you to make comments and make yourself available for questions.
Julia Roberts, my mother is Mary Ann Roberts, and we lived there our whole lives in that house. It's going to date me. I was born in 1959, so I remember a whole different landscape out there. There wasn't a traffic light. There were big accidents in a triangle. It wasn't pretty. It is much better today. But as a seller, we're kind of, our hands are tied too. We can't just say, as a family, we're going to keep paying property taxes on this and not get any use out of it or anything else. And we are cleaning it up. I mean, I'm available for any questions, but my question is, we have a cemetery up the street. And, I'm thinking all the time, if this falls through, then what's the next option? So what is the zoning requirements if we decided to expand our cemetery to the residential? What would that entail? Because it sounds like they want a lot of green space, and cemeteries are certainly a lot of green space.
Is that something that you would consider?
It's something we would consider as a family, because if it became that it wasn't worth selling it or taking it as a loss, we'd probably want to keep it in the family and make it, extend the cemetery, because they're always looking for more land for the cemetery. I just wanted to see. I mean, that's just for me. From my sisters.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment before we close the public hearing? Mr. Edgington, you've already made your comment.
I just wanted to ask if you all read the letter. That's all. I wanted to ask you a question.
Whether or not we've read the letter?
That I handed out, yes, basically an ultimatum from the company to the residents is what that letter is.
Well, you've handed it out, and I'm assuming that to the extent that they...
It's basically an or else letter.
Okay.
That's who you're dealing with. True.
Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken that would like to address the council?
Matthew Haggerty. My address is 6703 Northwest 48th Court, Johnston. Everybody's kind of covered all the concerns we have as residentials in that area. My question would be, I'd love to see the city of Johnston buy that and make a city park out of it for everybody's use. Because that corridor that comes in from Ankeny, that would be a perfect spot to welcome people in from different townships to enjoy Johnston. That's the only comment that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're still in a public hearing on this. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? If not, we will close the public hearing at 8:19.
Mayor, could I seek some clarification as far as, I just want to make sure I understand, there was mention of a supermajority needed because it did not pass P and Z. And I just want to kind of lay out what are steps, next steps, and then also what is the impact? As far as I know, at different points in times, applicants are restricted from applying for rezoning or other things if it's voted a certain way. So can Christine or somebody kind of enlighten me as to really what would the ramifications be depending on certain outcomes?
It does require a supermajority since P and Z did not recommend approval, so there would need to be 4 ayes to approve the rezoning. I don't know off the top of my head if there's a period of time in which the same request cannot come back.
I believe it's 1 year. 1 year.
1 year. But that's the same request. So a different zoning request could come in that time period, but the same request would not be able to come back.
Okay.
This is an ordinance change, so that requires 3 readings.
Yes, this is a zoning map amendment, yes.
So we would need to have 4 votes.
3 times.
3 times.
Christine, I have a question. You said if it goes down, it cannot come back in 1 year, the same request. When you say same request, do you mean a request to change the residential, the R1 to light industrial? Anybody coming forward, or this developer with this plan making this request cannot bring it to the council for 1 year? Like, I need to know a little bit more, like, it could come back with a different developer, it could come back with a different rezoning request under the same developer?
It's usually the request, so it can't, the same zoning request cannot come back. So if it's a conditional.
Regardless of what we've seen, or what the conversation has been
right?
from
I
this
believe that's
developer, to be requested that this change 1 whole year.
It's an R1 to M1 without something different than what was originally requested, then it.
Right, so if it came back as a conditional rezoning and the uses were limited, that's a new request.
Okay.
So that would not be prohibited. But if it's just a straight R175 to M1, then that's where the waiting period comes into play.
And if they were to come back in 2 months with a plan that was much more detailed, the fact that we voted down right now, if we voted it down tonight, they wouldn't be allowed, even if it's a change in plan.
Right, because it's still the same rezoning
Still pretty
request.
much the same rezone.
Right, you're not considering a site plan tonight, you're just considering a rezoning.
Thank you.
You know, my head is to propose that we table this. And so I likely would, I want to hear what other people think as well. But and there's a couple of reasons why I'm thinking it. One, I think we've heard some good discussion tonight about some of the problems with especially traffic at this site that I think are legitimate. And I do think that both on the north side and even the east side, there's some challenges there that I think make even a light industrial use really challenging. But I think the hard part is all we have in front of us is this proposal. And we don't know what an alternative proposal would look like. You know, people say, let's do residential. Well, I presume if they come back, it's let's say it's 4.5 acres, right? They're probably going to come back and propose 9 half-acre lots, right? We're not talking about one house going on this site. It's going to be multiple houses. And probably a lot of the trees are going to get taken out under that type of proposal. You know, that, I don't know, you know, I think those are things that we don't like about this proposal, we might not like about that proposal as well. Mrs. Roberts might come back and say, we'd like to build a cemetery on the southern half of this and keep the northern half 2 lots or something, and that might be great and save a bunch of trees. I just don't know what it's going to look like. I respect the point that Blake has made a couple of times that they don't feel that it works residentially, but I think more needs to be really pursued there to sort of see if that really can be, if the Roberts are able to sell it to a private developer or not.
You know, we're talking, it's best use, so the deal that's going to get the most money. I'm the executive of the state, and my job is to make sure that we get the maximum potential out of the property. And so when you're looking at, do we take half to make, I mean, we're all old, our sisters, but that, you know, I'm not sure whether they want to be in business, because if we don't change ownership, we don't have a problem, we can develop it any way we want to develop it. But do we want to do that? So, I mean, most of us just will see it sold. I mean, I'm sure that we do. And to its best use. As my mother used to say, everything has its season, and believe me, that house has had its season. And it's probably time for it to move forward with the rest of Johnston, that property.
And so I sort of thought that maybe being on the council might be the most thankless job of anybody in the room tonight. But I think being executor of that estate might be, you know, and frankly, being an executor of any estate, I think is probably the most thankless job.
You aren't anybody's friend
And we had a couple of gentlemen come forward and make, I think, a pretty legitimate suggestion. Why don't the city buy it and turn it into a park? Well, you know, later, the next agenda item is what is called our capital improvement plan, which outlines investments that we plan to make in parks and roads and all that type of stuff. If the plan goes out for the next 5 years, I don't know that there's resources available for the city to, well, it certainly isn't in our plan nor that we have money available that I'm aware of to buy it and turn it into a park, right? So that would require a pretty significant change in the direction that the city's planning. And that park plan needs to be, I don't know if Jeff, our parks director's in the room today. He probably, thankfully, is glad he's not here. But, you know, that's you know, you got to all of a sudden think strategically, how does this fit in with, and I think we always have to be really hesitant to not try to do that strategically. I certainly think it could be a potential option. But one of the reasons I think I support tabling as opposed to taking a vote and voting it down is that I don't think it's fair to compare this plan against plans that we don't really know what is there an alternative plan that's viable for the property owner? The property owners who are opposed to it, you have rights and perspectives on it, and I respect that. But I think as a council members, we also have to take into account the rights of the existing property owner too. So it's got to be a balancing act. I think the reason I think a tabling makes sense is for us to take a look at other separate viable options to deal with what is a pretty complex issue because of the traffic, because the residential and the industrial coming together. Is there another viable option? And if there isn't another viable option, then is there a way to make, I think it still would be helpful to sort of see, you know, if you with this proposed industrial use, is there a way to do it that doesn't impact the trees and maybe frankly, you could save more trees with an industrial use than you could with a residential use. I don't know. And I think, you know, if you have a residential use, that buffer goes from 60 feet down to 30 feet. So I don't know if that impacts how many trees end up on the site or not. I just think that we occasionally have these, right? That are just really hard, challenging issues to figure out what the right answer is. And this answer that we have in front of us tonight is problematic, I think, especially because of the traffic. But I do think it's worth still keeping it out there as a potential option if no other option is better than that. I'm a big fan of Winston Churchill, and he once said that democracy is the worst form of government except for every other form of government. And this plan might be the worst plan except for every other potential plan. We just don't know that at this point. So that's kind of my thinking, but welcome others' thoughts.
I do want to say something to the family of Mary Ann Roberts. 33 years ago, I met in her house's kitchen, and we talked about her making food for my wedding. So, yeah, and so that was, and she also served the city in the capacity of being mayor, and the family, you're one of the founding families, so thank you for all that. I've gone through quite a roller coaster of thought on this property because I have to tell you, first off, I thought, yuck. I mean, seriously, I don't want to do that. But then I met at the site, and there were several neighbors there that talked about how they thought this was the right thing to do. And I was like, wow, I didn't really expect that, but they were scared by the whole townhomes, you know, the horrible thing if we were to put apartments there, and who knows who, you know, we get this at the city council level all the time. But then everything started to change. We got a lot of letters that said, no, they didn't want the rezoning. And I understand totally about if it goes down tonight, they can't bring it back in a year. But I did tell Blake, I said, Blake wanted to know my thoughts after that meeting. And I said, Blake, I need more reassurance that the trees are that a significant amount of those trees would be protected. And I didn't get it, not from what I've gotten, what I've seen I didn't get the reassurance. And I was open to hearing what was going to happen tonight. But I'm kind of back to, this is not, without the reassurance that we're going to do a very careful development there, that we're going to protect some of those really nice trees, that the front door of Johnston to the north, to the east is not protected. I am very much leaning toward not being supportive of the current proposal because we don't have very much control here at the council. Everybody thinks the city council, we can do all sorts of things. We can only vote on what's brought to us. And what has been brought to us doesn't have enough assurances to make me comfortable. And I totally understand that. I deal with this a lot. I've tried over the 8 years that I've been on the council to respect, when zoning issues come up, I always think to myself, people always come to us and say, when I bought this property, it was with the expectation it was going to stay, that the neighbors, it was going to stay, that the zoning was going to stay the same. And even though there's been a lot of times when I would think that the rezoning, what was being presented was actually a benefit, we would get a lot of neighbors come here and say they don't want it. And I mostly respect what the neighbors say. I also respect the fact that you own a piece of property, and that's an investment. Your mom held on to this property and she passed it on to her children with the thought that this is their inheritance. So I understand that too.
Other comments, council?
Going to go?
If you'd like to speak, feel free.
No, I'll go. So this is one of those situations where we cannot, there's a hard decision to make. I understand the developer's point of view, I understand the seller's point of view, I understand the neighbor's point of view. So we need to do a balance of this. And I would, like Councilman Tom Cope said, is this the right option up there to building a commercial building, the two warehouses? Is there a different viable option up here? So trying to make a balance of all of this is a very hard decision to make. So at this point, I cannot actually agree with what the plan was shown with that traffic and everything else that I just talked about. I cannot actually approve what was shown, but if there is a viable different option that you can bring up on that particular property, I probably consider that. But at this point, with the plans that you showed and without any traffic consideration, with all the other things that has been talked about here, it's really hard to say yes to this. But I'm also willing to listen to you and see if there's a viable option, a different option with all the discussions that happened here with the neighbors has said that, a lot of different things. If there's viable options, please bring it up. We can actually have a look at it again. But what you've shown right now, I do not think that's a viable option. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Other comments?
I am in favor of tabling to see if there is further plans or information that comes forward. Quite frankly, as Councilmember Cope, kind of floated that idea out there, I may have given a little more shocked look to that. Maybe one because it came from Councilmember Cope, but I really very much value the fact that you have identified this as a difficult decision. I think we all have. I think all the parties involved have indicated that this is a difficult decision because of where it is located geographically, what the symbolism means at this point as an entrance or welcome, but also, quite frankly, the juxtaposition of what's around it. My preparation after hearing the question of my fellow council members was, I could vote to move this thing forward knowing that we had more votes to come so that we could get more information. If the council is more comfortable on waiting and not taking any votes so that we can potentially get other information, by all means, I would welcome that, because that's what I would want before we move forward on that. So if this comes to a vote tonight, I will be voting yes. However, it is not a strong yes at this point in time without further information. What I also want to share with you is if there is a motion for a table, I will be voting in favor of tabling this.
You want to say something?
Well, I'm all in favor of tabling it, and I'm at this point, I'm a hard no. And I guess because I've been traveling that stretch of road for 47 years. I had to actually do the math to figure it out. And that has always been, for me, the gateway into Johnston. Because I used to go to Ankeny all the time for work, for play, whatever. I went, parked on the property, parked at the house, overlooking the intersection, looking at the houses across the street, the new ones across the opposite intersection, or opposite end of the intersection, and then the industrial part. And I understand there's a storm sewer running through there. I can't get over the grade change, how it's going to work without a huge slope or retaining wall or something. And then, of course, the traffic is, living there, like I said, it's just gotten worse. And the bike trail, fortunately, is used a lot. And it hasn't slowed the traffic down. So anyway, that's where I'm at. But yes, I would support tabling it. Maybe something would come forward that would change my mind.
So my sense is that if this went to a vote up or down tonight, it probably would not pass. And so I agree. I think the best direction to go at this point would be to table it. If it is tabled, that means that, as you continue to work through these issues, at any time it can come back off the table and we could proceed forward. If it failed tonight, this proposal could not come back again for another year. We've had a lot of discussion tonight, and I want to thank everyone in the audience this evening who was here, who shared their comments and their concerns. I appreciate the very civil way in which you did that. We always want to hear from the residents and those that are impacted by it. And so I really, really appreciate you being here this evening to do that. It's always helpful to us when we make decisions. I think because there has been so much discussion, the issues have been identified: traffic, bike trail, trees, possible, other uses. Council, I want to make sure that as the potential buyer and the seller and the staff continue to think about this and work on this, I want to make sure that we have given them enough guidance on what it is that they need to be doing to get to a point where maybe this comes back again. So is there anything else that we want to tell them that they should be considering, thinking about as they work through these issues?
What I would suggest potentially would be to create a small ad hoc group of a couple of council members, the mayor, and to continue to work with staff and the developers and the neighbors to kind of figure out what potentially works up there. Because I think this is just a complex issue and it's going to require, it doesn't have to be a significant ad hoc group, but I think we need to work in this in a collaborative kind of way that is an open process, and we can sort of look at what are the other options out there. And get a better sense from the Roberts what they're willing to kind of consider.
Would there be a time limit? I mean, a time frame that we could work within, or table? I mean, it's not open-ended, is it, the tabling?
The tabling is open-ended to the extent that, until you come back to us and ask to have it removed from the table, it would stay tabled. So if you were to come back in 2 weeks and say, everybody is fine with what we're proposing now, we want to have that removed from the table, or, I mean, if you come back and say, we're ready for the council to take action on it, we can remove it from the table and take action at that time.
Obviously, the challenge is, I mean, you have a count, well, we'd have to figure out, we got to figure out something that can get 4 votes. Right?
Exactly.
And
I
we clearly already, that's not, I mean, that we're kind of up against our limit.
Yeah, and you need 4 votes 3 times.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So, but we haven't had that motion yet, but I just want to make sure that Miss Roberts? Yeah, Julia, do you think it's something that you and the proposed purchasers can work out with the neighbors without involvement of city council members?
I mean, I've never done this before, but.
Figure out kind of the process going forward after that.
Here's why I do think we need to have, but I think a big issue here is traffic and Beaver, right? And I think that requires, that these guys can't go out and solve that problem. So that's why I think it requires some staff, and if it doesn't involve us, that's fine. But there's the issues that have been raised here are not just, they can't just, there's significant traffic issues at Beaver that are getting raised, and we need some professional thoughts from staff, and maybe the staff has to come to us and say, we got to hire a consultant to figure this out, and we need to invest some money. That's why I'm thinking this needs a little bit more robust process.
And I absolutely agree with you that our staff needs to continue to be involved in having conversation with the sellers and the proposed buyers. I don't want to create a process that would bog down their ability to move forward to yeah.
Well,
yeah.
right. Obviously, if they come up with a process that is not going to have a significant traffic impact, then that makes some of those issues. A lot of it sort of depends on the Roberts and.
I don't want to slow their process down because of our
No,
scheduling issues.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. If they can come.
It does seem like, you know, I mean, those are, to me, I don't see where the traffic is a concern, I can see why it's a concern. But the zoning, just, I guess it seems like there's some issues that don't really relate to zoning. And, I mean, like what, she should have time to, with their plans, but she shouldn't have to spend $10,000 to do something that may never come to pass. Because I guess, and probably it's normal procedure that you have a lot of conversations, but I guess it's a new process for me too. So I guess maybe like do that, see where we go from here for a while.
I mean, I just don't think this is a 2-week solution unless you guys have got Plan B in your pocket that you haven't. I mean,
We can continue this conversation and what process we need to follow after we take action tonight.
sure. I'll make a motion to table item, or first reading of ordinance 1157.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. More to come. Thank you all. Moving on to item 4B, conduct a public hearing and consider approval of Resolution 26-17, adopting the FY 2027 capital improvement budget and the FY 2027 to FY 2031 capital investment plan of the City of Johnston. And we'll open this public hearing at 8:45.
Good evening. I am going to start by making a request that we continue this public hearing. I'll give a little bit of background. As we've talked about this at the last couple of work sessions, we've been, concerned about the out years in the CIP, particularly as we get into 28, 29, and 30, as far as what that impact would be on the tax levy. We've had that information, and we've made some modifications we talked about. The version that you have before you tonight is slightly revised, very slightly revised from what we saw 2 weeks ago at your meeting, where we left, when we talked the last time about pausing after phase 1 and pausing after phase 3 of the East Emerald Hay Road projects. What we're suggesting is not pausing the engineering and the right-of-way acquisition for phase 2, just pausing the construction, which moves it from 28 to 29. And really what that does is it allows us an entire year where we're not losing out on a year of engineering and other work to decide and look at the full CIP going into 29 and 30 to make sure that we're okay financially. We have a sense of, better sense of the design on phase 1 to know where that construction might look like. And so that's a very small change from what you had before you. PFM has not had a chance to fully rerun their models for that, so we can clearly understand what that impact is. What I will say is everything's shown in fiscal 27 and they're listed in the staff report. We're fine. We can maintain a flat levy rate. There are no concerns from staff, from PFM. Cindy's trying to pull it up. We're good to move forward with those projects. It's really as we're looking out in the later years, and I'd hate for you to take action on this without having that full fiscal analysis from PFM. So that's a quick explanation, and had prepared to talk about more, but really feel like the PFM analysis is needed to fully dive in. So we would request continuing the hearing until your first meeting in February, which is February 3rd, I believe.
Do we have a motion to continue the public hearing of resolution number 2617?
I'll move.
Second?
Motion and second, discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Discussion?
I'm certainly fine with continuing. The one thing that I continue wanted to think about a little bit is whether we try to find a minimal amount of funding or some amount of funding for the arts plan in either FY26 or in the out years of the CIP, or do we instead look at other sources, maybe like growth in local option sales tax revenue, or do we look at hotel motel? There's some, so I just would encourage us to continue to think about having that discussion when this hearing gets continued in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so on your consent agenda tonight, you're actually accepting a grant agreement with Bravo for $75,000 for public art for the water trail. That will require a match that I believe, Josh isn't here, but I believe we have available in TIF 1 to match that for about $100,000, which would be kind of the first big splash, if you will, following the art plan. We haven't adopted it yet. But that would be the first big piece to come out of it. And I did note in the staff report, or I don't know if I've got it in the board docs or it's in the actual document itself. We've got, I'll probably missed some, but we've got active projects right now that we know are going to impact future CIPs. We've got the art plan, the streetscape plan, the trail plan, the watershed plan. We're doing the space needs and study and existing condition study of the library. We're about to start one on the public safety building. There's a lot of things that we know are coming that we don't have the full quantification of yet. So this discussion next year will look a lot different just because the amount of other work we have going on, or some of that's wrapping up, some of that's just beginning, but a lot more to come on a lot of those. But there is, because of the Bravo grant, we've got a really good opportunity to get a big project off the ground really quickly on the art side.
Councilmember Cope, Dave, thank you for responding in that regard. Councilmember Cope, thank you for bringing that up and kind of that reminder of the art plan from that standpoint. I definitely want us to continue moving forward. I recall last meeting, after hearing that presentation of that plan, feeling very invigorated by the ideas that were put forth in it, because they embodied more than a conventional view of art, at least in my opinion, toward building community in different spaces and even some economic development drivers that could go along with it. And so to some extent, seeing those reflected over a multi-year plan will certainly be helpful. One, so that it isn't just a one-off or kind of a piecemeal type. It is a comprehensive endeavor. So if the city staff can continue for those plans that we have now received or will have received, can continue to put some placeholders in there, that obviously helps everybody kind of see that we haven't forgotten it, but in fact, it's a priority. So thanks.
Any further discussion? If not, Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Reddy?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on, I've lost my place on the agenda. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in, no, Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Reddy?
Yes.
Motion passed. And I would just remind everyone that with the approval of the consent agenda, we also received and filed all of the reports that are listed under item 6. So if you have an interest in any of those areas, I would encourage you to take a look at those minutes or other reports that have been filed. A lot of good information there. Moving on to items, moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7A, consider first consideration of ordinance number 1156, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Johnston, Iowa, 2007 by amending section 106.12 for the purpose of adopting solid waste collection fees to become effective on July 1st, 2026.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the council knows, the City of Johnston partners with, Metro Waste Authority to provide solid waste and recycling services to 1 and 2 family homes in Johnston. As part of this partnership, the city passes through the actual fee charged by Metro Waste Authority directly to our residents. There's no city markup except for a $1 per month fee per account that's added as part of the billing service that we provide for that. The city has received notice from Metro Waste Authority of a rate increase effective July 1. This is driven by several factors, including consumer price index, diesel fuel prices, and landfill disposal costs. The solid waste collection fee monthly rate will increase by 2.7%. The 96-gallon container, which is what most residents in Johnston use, will go from $11.72 to $12.02. The 48-gallon container will go from $11.06 to $11.36. We do have additional fees if people choose to have second containers. Those will also increase 2.7%. In addition, the curb it fee, recycling fee will increase from $4.58 to $7.78, which represents a 3.1%. All these fees are effective July 1st, 2026. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions council has this evening.
Council have any questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve first consideration of ordinance number 1156?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Reddy?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, receive and file the 2025-26 strategic plan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Mayor and Council, as you know, along with department directors, again, participate in a planning process facilitated by Lyle Summick, resulting in a actionable plan that positions the city well to work on various strategic initiatives over the next year. This item, which was included in the packet, includes both the action agenda and the overall strategic plan for 2025, 2026, along with an implementation tracker. This tracker is a tool that we use to kind of track these various priorities and how we're moving through. And the plan would be staff would review the tracker on a quarterly basis with the council as we move through this next year. And I will now pull up the tracker just for people to reference. And we will put this after it's accepted by council on our document portal in Board Docs, so that will be available. But this is a very similar format as last year, breaks down to each goal area, and then we'll list the top priorities and the high priorities. And then if there are policy agenda items are items that we need to touch back more regularly with council. And then you have management agenda items, and these are items that will generally be items that just the city staff will work on. There may be a touch point or decision point later, but these are more management items rather than policy-driven items. And again, this breaks up into the first 3 pages is goal 1, which is our city government fiscally sound and providing responsive services. So the first 3 pages has that goal. Page 4 includes goal 2, vibrant Merrill-Hay destination, and then goal 3, outstanding quality of life amenities and experiences. Page 5 includes goal 4 of preserving our neighborhoods and small town appeal and great places to have a business. And then page 6 of the document does include other matters requiring additional evaluation and ongoing consideration. So these are the items that were not rated by the council as a top or high priority in the various goal areas. And again, these will be items that, while they're not a top or higher priority, city staff will still be working on these as time permits to do these. Now, staff has not went in there and put the various statuses. What you see statuses basically coming out of my mind of where different items are at. I will ask staff when we come back for the next quarterly update to go in and actually make those updates themselves. But this is a pretty good track from my perspective of where we're at. And it does show that there is work that is occurring on the various items, even since we've completed the strategic plan work with Lyle. With that, I'd be happy to answer any question council has this evening. We're requesting that the council receives and files the strategic plan at this time. Thank you.
Mike, will this plan, this document, will it be real time so that if we go out and check it in 4 weeks, we'll be able to see what's happening at that point in time?
Good question. I mean, this is a Excel document, so staff has to go in and make the changes, and then we have to manually go in and create the PDF and post it onto the live. So we don't have the capabilities today to make this a real-time a portal per se.
So how often do we think it'll be updated?
Again, we plan to bring this back at least quarterly to the council and review this and give a status update.
But certainly if anybody is going through it and they have a question, they can call
Staff
either
is-
you or the staff and say,
Staff is
where
always
we at with
happy.
this? Yeah.
And one of the things you'll see is there's a responsible party listed here, so that will give you an indication of who you can contact.
Any other questions for Mike? If not, do we have a motion to receive and file the 25-26 strategic plan?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Present.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7D, consider approval of claims in the amount of $2,224,697.07.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. City administrator comments.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a reminder, next week on Tuesday and Thursday, we will have budget workshops. That is really kind of our first opportunity as staff to present fiscal year 2027 budget. Overall, it's always a heavy lift for staff, but right now I think I'm feeling comfortable where we're at and looking forward to those discussions next week. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. That's all I have update-wise.
Any other updates or comments from staff? Seeing none, city council comments, Councilman Evans,
Anything on Bombers or Ignite?
Josh isn't here.
Say that again. Sorry.
Is there any update on Bombers or Ignite?
We did meet with the Bombers team frequently here in the last few weeks. They're continuing their due diligence to secure financing for the project to move that forward. They're looking at several different options to do that. Ignite project is really no updates other than the process that they're working through foreclosure. We've had some conversations with some of the entities that have mortgages, just trying to understand kind of where that potentially is headed through a foreclosure process so that the city can be positioned if that's ultimately what happens to that, and really explaining to potential buyers of our interest and how that's going to be developed. So Josh is doing a great job of kind of coordinating that work on the Ignite.
Thank you.
Councilman Reddy.
I don't have a comment, although I'd like to ask, the next meeting's on 3rd, right, not the 2nd?
That would be correct. It's on the 3rd, not the 2nd. So
Second of you, but otherwise no other comments.
Councilman Cole.
I guess following up on Councilmember Evans's question on Ignite. So we took action, I think in our first meeting in December, declaring default.
correct.
Can you walk through the next steps on that process and as I recall, there was something we would do then within 30 days and then maybe 60 days? And have we?
The other way around, but so they had, well, the first deadline, they had 10 days to tell us if they were going to, if they decided not to transfer the property to us, they had to give us notice of that. They did not give us notice to that. So that then triggers a presumption that they're going to transfer the property to the city. They have
Free and clear.
Free and clear, correct. The city, that deadline is sometime at the end of January. I don't know the date off the top of my head. We did send a notice to them, just a reminder that, hey, we're assuming that this is going to transfer. We've not received any word back from Ignite at this point on that.
And that, I'm sorry for interrupting, but because you circulated kind of a letter to us maybe last week, was that kind of?
And that went to the Economic Development Ad Hoc group.
Okay.
So after that deadline, they have 30 days. So if they do not transfer the property at the end of January, that triggers a different provision in the development agreement. It says they need to repay all their development grants. That is a neighborhood of about $3 million they'll have to repay to the city. And they have 30 days to provide us that. At that point, if they have failed to do that, then the city will have to consider what our next steps are. And then there's a number of options we would have, everything from terminating the development agreement to taking legal action to enforce repayment of those pre-development grants that we made to Ignite.
And so the 10-day thing that was back in December was, remind me what that was?
Well, so the 10 days was within the 60-day window. So that would have been early December some point. I just don't know the date off the top of my head.
And it said that whether they were going to transfer the property to us or not, and they didn't.
They had to tell us if they were not going to transfer the property to us.
So they had to tell us, they did not tell us that. So by default, it was our expectation is they will transfer the property to us and they have within 60 days to do that.
Of the original default notice, yes.
Yeah. And you've sent them a letter sort of saying, this is what our expectation is, and
Correct.
you've not heard a response from that letter.
Yeah, correct. We've not heard a response.
And that letter went out sometime last week.
Couple days, yep. And actually surprising is normally when we send a letter, we've been getting responses lately. But this one has been quiet.
You have received some responses from them on things, or?
Yes, yep. More cursory, but
Nothing of.
yeah, probably something I don't really want to go into an open session.
All right. Thank you.
Councilman Burkhart.
I just want to put in a shameless plug for Showzam this weekend. It is the Iowa's largest show choir competition. It is hosted at Johnston High School. And we have incredibly talented kids that go all over the place and compete by singing and dancing. And this is an opportunity for them to show off one additional talent beyond that, and that is how great they can smile and nod and host all sorts of other schools coming in to our fair city. So if you see folks in sequins, direct them toward the high school. Maybe, maybe there's, yeah, exactly. You know, if it's closer to my birthday, it might have been my birthday party or something. But the reality is that I would direct them there. But if you were in the mood for watching some great singing and dancing, there's plenty of choirs that are going to be competing for some trophies and hardware and bragging rights of Showzam. But also there are opportunities to see Johnston's own choirs from 7th grade all the way up through varsity level, performing in exhibition, both Friday night or Saturday night, depending on the age group. So it's an awesome experience, certainly for the school and a great fundraiser, but it also is a wonderful opportunity for Johnston to continue to welcome folks from outside. And I know we have lots of different events throughout the year. This happens to be one that I'm singing today. So thanks.
Councilmember Burkhart, I've never gone to it, and I've always heard about it and thought, wouldn't that be amazing? So when would you recommend that I go? You can't go wrong if you just want to see good music and good singing. The Johnston choirs themselves are going to be, the 7th grade and 8th grade are going to be performing early afternoon on Friday. The 9th grade choir is performing at nearly 10 p.m. on Friday night. So you could spend the whole day there if you wanted to. And then the high school choirs are kind of interspersed on Saturday. They kick off the entire event early at around 8:30 Saturday morning. The JV is midday, and then the varsity is late afternoon, 4 or 5. So I'd be happy to send out a schedule though, and that way you could see when everybody is. So nobody from Sac City though is performing, unfortunately.
Or Fonda.
Or Fonda.
Newell, thank you.
I was pretty close.
Really?
That's like saying I'm from Alta, so I realize, I get the sensitivity.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
And I have nothing either, so. Is there anything else come before the council this evening? If not, we are adjourned.